I recently played Cubecrafts' new game, in which you have to survive a number of disasters. And it was absolutely crazy. The first disaster was acid rain, in which you'd be poisoned if you don't take cover. By itself, this wasn't too bad, but you have to survive up to 3 different disasters at the same time, so when spiders started spawning, this got a tad more difficult. Luckily, I was teleported away by the next event before the spider could finish me off. I then watched someone get murdered by a spider. But luckily the spider event ended before it could kill me. But I died shortly afterwards in probably the dumbest way possible. In this next game, the first event was acid rain again, so I went to a house and a bunch of other players had the same idea. We were then given TNT, so I decided to cause some chaos and blow up the house, but it did backfire a bit, and I had to make a perilous journey to get to new shelter. But once I did, I decided to stay there and wait for things to calm down. Once they did, I left and there really wasn't much going on at this point besides the odd zombie. Because I made it to the halfway mark, I was given a bunch of random potion effects for some reason. One of the next changes was a sinkhole, which piqued my interest. There were now only 3 players left, so I wanted to try and kill them with my sword, but of course it didn't work. I was on track to survive to the end, but one of the events changed that. To survive this game, you had to be in the majority of infected or not infected players. It wasn't made clear to me that I was infected, so I spent the entire time looking for the infected player. And as a result, I died with just 1 second left on the clock. The first disaster of this next game was Frozen Touch, where everything you walk on turns to ice, which gives you frostbite, effectively turning the game into a TNT run. PvP was then turned on, and luckily I managed to kill the player that was in the room with me. But the ice forced me to make some dangerous decisions. And slowly but surely, I froze to death. This next game started with me getting ambushed by spiders, and because PvP was about to turn on, I hid in a building to avoid confrontation. In the end, it wasn't the players that killed me off, but the spiders. So far, I was yet to win a single game of this, but let's see if we can turn it around with this one. The first effect was swap, so I stood on a ledge to give someone full damage. Next up we had Wither Shower. But the Wither Skulls turned out not to be much of a threat. After that was a phantom attack, which was a bit more of a problem, but I was swapped away before I could be damaged too much. At this point, I decided the best thing to do was to stay inside, as it was getting a bit chaotic. I eventually had to leave the house I was in because phantoms had spawned inside, so I ran to a different one. And then PvP was turned on. Luckily no one came to attack me this time. When the grace round came, I went to go and kill some players because I could always heal up with cakes afterwards. I killed one player, and then had a look for some others, but I couldn't find any. After that came an alien invasion, so I had a look to see if I could see it. Eventually, I did see a UFO, but it wasn't really much of a threat. We were now at the end of the game again, so I just had to survive a little bit longer to win. I decided to go inside again, but this turned out not to be a sustainable strategy. The next event meant that every time you went inside, monsters would spawn. I kept on running, and in a bit of an anticlimax, the time ran out and I had won. And that was the only game I won in the hour I spent playing this game.